Okay, here's the gist. I'm a gay guy who's been living in New York City for the past 3 decades. I got shit to talk about. I also have awesome friends who also have a lot of shit to talk about. That's what this podcast is about. Way off the record. People that you never hear from, that you need to hear from. Because trust me, girl, you need this fabulous in your life. Welcome to a special edition of Way Off the Record. My guest today is the director, writer, producer of the brilliant documentary Olympia about the life of Olympia Dukakis. Harry, how are you?
Hey Scott, I'm good. I'm good. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you after all of our talking about this. And like, I'm going to try to pronounce your name because I didn't even do that on the intro. So, Harry Karalambos Mavromichalis.
Mavromichalis, yes. The Charalambos part is my baptism name.
Oh, okay.
It's just in legal papers that's what it is, and I guess in IMDb they threw everything in there. But yeah, it's just Harry.
IMDb. That's what IMDb bills you at. Actually, they bill you both. It's like Harry Karalambos Mavromichalis and then Harry Mavromichalis
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
So they got you covered. I
It's,
wanted
it's
to ask you real quick. On IMDb, it gives the released release date of July 9th, 2020. Is
yep,
that right?
that, that's
Okay.
right.
So tell tell me, did you get a distributor, and where can people find this movie to see it? Because they should see it.
Yes. So pre-COVID, I mean, we do have a distributor. Abramorama is the
Okay.
distributor. We were supposed to come out in March at the Quad in Manhattan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the theaters that was
Oh,
going to play our film, and then it moved to June, still at the Quad when things were not sure. Like
right,
around
right.
February. Um, so then when we figured out that that was not happening, we tried to figure out a different way of how to distribute the film, and we came up with virtual cinema. So virtual cinema is a word that now everybody's using, but I think a lot of people don't really understand what it is.
What is? It sounds fascinating.
Well, so places like Film Forum
Hmm.
or the Quad. The Quad doesn't have virtual cinema, so it's not a good example. But Film Forum has the ability to play films online. So, premiere with new films and charge like a theater ticket, and you watch the film at home.
Oh, wow.
So it's different than streaming. It's different than iTunes and Amazon Prime in that sense that we are having a theatrical release, but it's virtually.
Right. Let
So,
me ask you, does that affect like Oscar contention or any like, do they have a category for that, or is it just
so
straight up?
if you this year the Academy of Arts and Sciences has changed the rules just for now,
Okay.
where you can be an Oscar contender even if you don't have a virtual cinema release.
Okay.
You go straight to streaming, you could still be a contender. Um, but virtual cinema is basically having your theatrical release. So we would have been, even if this wasn't the case, we would have been, you know, able to, submit, let's say.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm caring about right now. I want to see you in the Kodak Theater or whatever it is. So let's talk about
Virtual
your,
product theater.
I know. That's about, so they're not doing the Oscars this year, are they? Ugh,
It's yeah.
everything's fun.
I have to say I went through severe depression because of all this because I've worked for this is the ninth year of Olympia, you know uh,
Yeah. Okay.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of like a lifetime of a dream come true. um, and then COVID happened. And at the beginning, you're kind of like selfish. You don't think about people dying, and and you're thinking of all about yourself. Like you've worked on this thing for 9 years, and now it's ready to come out, and boom, like it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you start, putting things in perspective, and you're like, oh my God, thank God for my health and the people that I love that are fine, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Well, as time progressed, you realize that this is a really good time to release a film because there's so much demand for content for
Yeah. Yeah.
people being stuck at home, and there's not anything releasing. The big studios have all shut down. There's other than other documentaries or small indie films, nothing is coming out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna do well with the release of the film at this specific time.
So when will people be able to see the film streaming?
So we've
Do you know?
decided to do, okay, so it comes out on virtual cinemas on July 10th.
Okay.
Now, we will have all that information on our website, olympiathefilm.com,
Okay.
where
Good.
people
Thank you
can
for
come
that.
and register their names so they can get, information. But all the all the art house movie theaters that have virtual cinema abilities and book our film will be on our website, so people can go on our website and choose where they want to give their money to. They want to give
Nice.
to, a movie theater in Minneapolis or LA or Film Forum or whatever. So
Nice.
that list will come up on our website closer to July 10th, which is
Okay.
would be the premiere. But we also wanted to do a free release on Facebook Live on the 9th of July.
Oh,
And the reason we wanted to do this is because I kept hearing of nonprofit organizations that have been like hurting financially, theater companies that are shutting down. And so we try to figure out how we can help. How can this little tiny film help other organizations through this COVID, period?
right.
And we came up with this idea where we do our Facebook Live premiere, one screening on July 9th at 8 p.m. We have partnered with about 30 organizations nationwide where they will cross-post the film on their Facebook page. So,
Wow.
and they can bring their audience into their Facebook page using Olympia's big name, right?
Right. Right.
And then once they're there, they will ask for donations from their audiences, their followers, to raise money for their organizations. We get zero, we get nothing,
Right.
So the idea is to just help nonprofits, and we went for nonprofits that have something to do with our film and who Olympia and who I am. So
Mhm.
there's LGBTQ organizations, there's theater companies, there's women's organizations,
Wow.
and there's a couple of Greek um, American organizations.
That's a
So the San Francisco AIDS Foundation is one, the Actors Studio, the Actors Fund, um, 10 Chimneys, which is a theater foundation in Wisconsin. It's a big list, and we're very excited to be
great.
doing that because we hope to
Reach.
raise a lot of money for a lot of people.
Right. And the reach also uh,
Yes.
of all of those organizations and your page. And I have to say, I haven't seen any ads for that. I'm pretty sure I'm signed up for the Olympia page. How are you how are you promoting that event on July 9th?
So the promotion is starting soon.
Oh, good. Okay, okay.
We were focusing on the drive-in screen
Mm. Hmm.
that which was another fundraiser. Basically, we did a show, and all the proceeds went to a theater company in Queens that's Greek American, inspired by
Nice.
Olympia's history. And it was just like a small. We were sold out, but it was like a small screening of 43 cars. uh, who came to the diner, Bel Air Diner,
That's
and
hilarious.
watched the film. So,
Yeah.
but we have a publicity PR firm behind us, Falco, uh, who has been reaching out. We will be reviewed by the New York Times. We're trying to get a USA Today story and
Nice.
to get on NPR. All of that will be happening from today till July 9th.
Did you the PR play? Is it Spotco? Spotco?
The firm?
Yeah.
Falco,
Oh,
Falco, Falco, yeah.
okay. Sorry. Because Spotco does all the Broadway posters and stuff. And sorry, I'm mixing
Broadway and
my Broadway and film world. Yeah. So let's just talk. I want to talk to you about your upbringing in Cyprus and what that was like and how that
sure.
may have affected you, your life as a gay man, as a filmmaker, as a dancer. And I want to just get into a little bit more about, tell me about you, Harry.
Jesus God. Well, let's start with my upbringing because it's a little unique in the sense that I wasn't raised in one country. I was born in Cyprus. We moved to England when I was 11. When I was 13, we went to Iraq. When I was 14, we went to Bahrain in the Middle East, which is a tiny little island in the Arabian Gulf next to Saudi Arabia,
Mm-hmm.
where I graduated high school there, and then went to the military in Cyprus for 2 years, did a year in Cyprus, and then moved to Boston to
Man, that's
start my university degree. Um, Graduated from Rutgers in New Jersey, and then moved to Copenhagen in Denmark for a year, where I did dancing because I graduated with Spanish literature and public relations. I had no idea what I wanted to study in high school because art, dance, film was just not an option. Like no one has
really
ever spoken to me that I could actually do that. And when I decided that I did want to do dance and spoke to my parents said, you will do something serious first, and
right.
then you can do whatever you want. And
So that's the Spanish lit and communications part.
that's the Spanish lit and communications. And I was in college for 3 years, and the college kept saying to me, you have to declare what you're studying. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I did a year abroad in Madrid through BU. And I think that's how I ended up doing the Spanish literature because I loved learning Spanish. And then I started doing literature classes and blah, 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 blah. So I just kind of like graduated, without really wanting to do any of the stuff that I was doing. And
Oh,
as soon as I graduated, I moved to Copenhagen and I got into a dance school and, started my, slowly my dance training, which led to my dance career, and being a dancer and then a choreographer.
that is some CD. How many
And
languages do you speak?
I speak 3 languages, and I took 6 years of French, which I wouldn't say that I speak it. If I spend
I'll
enough
see.
time in France, I can start understanding what everybody's saying, but
Yeah.
yeah, French is not one of them.
Yeah. Wow. That you have lived what most people would have to spend 10 lifetimes, it seems. And just what you're saying now, that's amazing.
Well, I feel blessed. It's a really lonely life. It has been a lonely existence because you don't have high school reunions. You don't have
Oh,
friends who live in the same country as you. Like I was in a high school in Bahrain where all my best friends were from,
mhm.
and we were 51 nationalities. So
Wow.
once we left Bahrain, everybody went home,
Hmm.
and we don't see each other often. And the other thing is that you kind of feel um, alone in the sense of how you see the world. Like the
Mhm.
people who were in this place have were so diverse. We were so, there was no cliques of like the English, the Irish, it was all together,
Nice.
constant. And so you go out in the world and you don't see race, you don't see religion, you don't see, you just see people. And you go to places, even my home, Cyprus, which is very racist, and
Mm.
um, or even in the States, or even in New York, we think of New York as diverse. I
Right.
don't. I think it's a very segregated city,
I
New
do
York
too.
City.
I do
So
too. Well,
um,
especially if you go anywhere, if you go half an hour outside of New York City.
I think Manhattan is segregated.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go to a restaurant and you see, you know, I remember going to Atlanta for the first time and walking into restaurants and seeing tables that had, you know, black and white people together.
Mm.
All of that.
Hmm.
And where we go to restaurants here in New York, and it's basically the white tables and the black tables,
Yeah.
and you don't
Yeah.
notice that. We think we're diverse, but we're not.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so it was a blessing, and I would do it all over again, but it is definitely, it has its, down, how I say, it's a lonely existence,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. Now that I mean, you're basically settled in New York now, right?
Yeah,
So,
and I love it.
oh,
I
good. So that's
absolutely,
given you some
yes.
like home
I
base.
couldn't live anywhere else. I couldn't live
Yeah.
anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. You know, I grew up in upstate New York, which is like another country.
We're upstate.
Um, it's called Gloversville, like the glove.
Yeah.
It was the glove making capital of the world, like for
Wow.
real, turn of the last century. Um, and my father and his father and brothers had a glove making shop. And um, it was a great place to grow up, I have to say. But, you know, it was also really difficult growing up gay in upstate New York in the 80s. It was like I had to I had to try to pass,
Yeah.
you know, as best I could. And then once I left and I went to college in another town in upstate Oneonta, um, is when I finally like came out and realized that I can make friends and I'm not a freak, and complete paradigm shift. And so for me, New York has been like a big blessing.
Well, I mean, we're it's the city of misfits.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like we've come from all over the world, because I mean, I couldn't see myself, you know, living in Cyprus at the time. Now things are different, but I'm talking about when I was growing up, I couldn't see myself, you know, being gay there, because
Yeah,
I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do. And what was the one place that you could do that and you could be yourself was New York,
right.
and that's why we all come here. We all
Right.
flock
To
to New York.
reinvent ourselves. It's it's funny, exactly. You call it rightly so. New York is the city of misfits, and I feel like in not a conscious way that this podcast, um, I'm getting interviews with people that I really respect, like you, like Dirty Martini, the burlesque star. I have a porn star on the docket.
Can you say who
Ando
it is?
Guerra is going to be on. I have Joey Arias, and so it's sort of like my tribe. You know, I think I have to like rewrite the business proposal of or whatever the gist of what this
Commission.
podcast is, and it's all about like freaks and misfits and stuff. And
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
you know, so tell me how moving from dance to film. Tell me how that happened with you in your career.
Um, okay, so it was purely accidental. Uh, uh,
You picked a really difficult career to just sort of accidentally happen into, girl. I'm just
it,
letting you
it,
know, but you did it perfectly.
it was done like I said, because art was not part of my vocabulary or my parents' vocabulary. um, you know, even dance. My cousin invited me to go see her dancing in her dance class in Cyprus. This was when I was in the army. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come, you know, because I was a dancer, like club dancing. You know, I was dancing every weekend. I was out clubbing, you know, and
Mm.
dance all night. And so she knew how much I loved dance. So she invited me, and I went to the class, and I saw people learning how to dance. And my brain just exploded. And I went to the teacher at the end, and I was like, what is going on here? I said,
Wow.
I want to do this.
Wow. And how
And
old were you now? You're like in
I
20?
was 19. I was 19 years old at this point.
Okay.
And she said, sit down. She had me like turn out my legs and do some exercise just to see my, you know, my physical ability. And
Hmm.
she said, well, why don't you come and take beginners ballet, you know, with like the 5-year-olds, or, you know, like the 7-year.
No way, really?
No, actually, no. At the beginning, we just took modern, like jazz dance, and
Okay.
after the first class, she was like, oh, "No, no, you're really good. I'm gonna move you to the second class." And then, you know, after a week, she moved me. Like within like 2 months, I was in the advanced level
Whoa.
of jazz, and then she was like, "You really should start ballet." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay," you
Foundation.
know. So it would be literally like, you know, 10 or 15 9-year-old girls with their tights and their leotards, and me with my shorts and my socks.
You didn't have a dance belt, I'm guessing.
Oh, no, 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 none
Oh,
of that
girl, you gotta wear one of those. Gotta
stuff.
keep the boys, you know.
Yeah. But that's how, you know, and it was this teacher of mine, Avyi, her name is, who basically believed in me and said, you really need to do this professionally, you know. And I didn't listen to her right after the army. I listened to my parents, you know, and did
Yeah.
something else. But right after that, I was like, fuck this, you know, I'm gonna go and try this. So I did that for a while, and then I wanted to do my master's in dance, because
Mhm.
you know my training. You know, I didn't have a degree in dance. I studied at the Alvin Ailey School.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, which was really intense. But I felt for choreography, I wanted to like learn to have training. Let's say so. My assistant in the dance company, this woman called ILN, and she said, let's go and check NYU's program and see how it is.
Mm.
So we went together to NYU. We had made an appointment to see the dance department. They walked us around, and as we're leaving, we're both like, "Mm, this was not good. We did not like it for
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
reason."
Yeah.
And she said, well, since we're in the building, I want to check out the film department. And
There you
so
go.
I just walked with her. So we sat in this office. Susan Carnival was the woman who spoke to us about the department. And again, it was like the same experience that I had with my cousin dancing. This woman was talking about filmmaking, that
Mhm.
we teach people how to edit and do sound and camera work and producing and directing. And I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah,
Like,
again.
what is going on? And we finished, and I said, I'd love to have an application. And she said, well, you're not going to have enough time. You know, the application deadline is in 2 weeks. And that actually the deadline was on my birthday, November 30th. And that's
Oh,
why I
wow.
remember it. So this
Wow.
was like mid-November. And she said, you're not going to have enough time. It's a really intensive application. And I was like, well, I said, just give it to me, and you know, we'll see. So I went home, I read the application. It had all this like writing. I never wrote, you know, like I wrote poetry for myself. I wrote stuff for myself. I never wrote like films and scenes, and I started the application. I stayed home for 2 weeks. And I had a friend who was a teacher at FIT. She taught fashion,
My alma
that
mater.
that I would meet with her and show her my writing samples. And I will never forget, she would be like, Marion was her name. And Marion would be like, oh God, Harry. Oh God, Harry, this is terrible. This is just terrible. People don't talk like that.
Oh, no.
So she would help me, and then she
Get
kind
it
of like,
down. Like
yeah, like tone it down, and
yeah.
it's more subtext than just like whatever's in your head. And so on November 30th, I showed up at NYU into Susan's office, and I'm like, here's the application. And she's like, oh my gosh. She goes, you're done? And I said, yeah, I mean, I don't know how good it is, but I'm done.
Yeah.
And then I forgot about it. Honestly, I totally forgot about it. I had my dance company. We were doing, working on shows. And then it was, I want to say January or February, where I got a call that said that I was selected. Um, they selected 80 people for interviews. And then from those 80 people, they would select 36 for the program.
Whoa.
So I went to the
Wow.
interview, failed. I felt like I failed it miserably.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. There was one question that I kept stuttering. I couldn't respond to what they were saying. And then they asked me, it was two men and a woman in the panel, and they asked me who was my favorite director, and I said Lars von Trier.
Oh.
And
Making
the
some way.
woman in the panel turns around and says to me, why? Because he's a misogynist. And I was like,
Oh no.
no, no, no. I didn't like, I was like, no, fuck, no, no.
Oh no.
So I left the interview, and I was depressed. I went home and I stayed, I shut myself in for 2 days. And then I was like, okay, I did my best. I did my
Right.
best.
Right.
And then they called me a week later that I was accepted. And my mom was visiting at the time. I had asked my mom to come to New York for 3 months because I wanted to do a cookbook with her, just get her all her recipes.
Oh my God.
And so she was there, and I was like, Mom, first of all, I was screaming and yelling and yeah, happy, happy, happy. And then I was like, Mom, like, I've had the dance company for 7 years. People are just starting to recognize the name. When I say the name, they're like, oh my God, I've seen you, blah, blah, blah. I really love your work. Do you
And
know
what was the name of the company?
Dance Anonymous?
Okay.
Dance Anonymous. And I said, is it stupid to just kind of like give that up and start something from scratch?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember her saying, typical Greek mother, she said, how many people applied for the school for this? And
I was gonna ask you that.
I was like, 1,000. And she goes, and how many people did they select? And I said, 36. And she goes, are you stupid?
Yay, mama. Yay, mama. What's your mother's name?
Joanna.
Joanna. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I tried to do both. It's a 3-year master's program. For the first 2 years, I had my dance company and was in full-time in film school.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it was
Oh my
the
God.
hardest thing I've ever had to do. And then I shut down the company after 2 years.
And how old were you when you started the NYU program?
34.
Wow.
34 to 37. Yeah. I was the second oldest student of those 36. I was Papa.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I've been in that boat a million times. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And so,
So you change careers without knowing it.
yeah,
Basically.
yeah.
Which
Well,
I think most people, that's what they do. Like, I don't know. I hear this story over and over again where people just make a decision to go here to try something, and then 10 years later, they're still there, like yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm 54 years old and I started a podcast a year ago, not even a year.
Yeah.
And before that it was graphic design, and I went to school at FIT at 40, and
You went to FIT at 40?
yeah, well, I matriculated before that, like 3 or 4 years before that, because I was working full time, and then I joined the program with those credits, and then went on for 3 years to finish my BA, not
Yeah,
master's.
yeah.
And it completely changed my whole paradigm.
Yeah.
So bravo for us old folks.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at a scene from Olympia, the documentary.
We feel in the theater because someplace we know all of this that's inside of us, we will have a chance to access it and liberate it. To the green room!
She has a life force, like one of those spaceships that has this battery that takes you out to the stars. You can see it when you're in the room with her. You know, you can see it in her work.
Fuck you! You got a love bite on your neck. He's coming back this morning. What's the matter with you? Your life's going down the toilet.
Olympia Dukakis and
Everybody was thrilled that a great actress who had dedicated her life to the arts was finally getting the recognition that she deserved.
Olympia the actress is superb. Her range is frightening and wonderful to watch. It's what every actor wants. I want it.
Hit this! Go ahead, Malin! Slap her! One of the things that makes me happy and alive is work. What are you afraid of doing? Something wrong? You're in a basement on Clinton Street.
She believes in justice. Justice for people who are downtrodden, justice for people who've been manipulated or lied to.
I'm so proud of my preoperative transsexual lesbian son.
I remember her eyes. They were very sexy. And I says, oh my God, this woman. And then she wasn't a shrinking violet. She never was.
You dance with somebody, bang, that prick is hard, you know? You rub against somebody, you walk into the prick is hard. I said, but then the day comes that you can't take for granted a hard prick. I'll walk down the street and there'll be a wonderful wind. I love wind. In that I think about not having this anymore, not having that wind. And I have this flash of fear. You know what, Rosemary? I'm an octogenarian today. Is that toilet paper? No, it's not. Oh my God! I'm 80 years old. I find that unforgivable. There's only one way to know. I have to go out and find out. Is it time to stop?
It's never too late. It's never too late.
So in regards to your question, what filmmakers inspire you and why? So Lars von Trier, Breaking the Waves.
Breaking the Waves.
Holy
and,
shit.
oh my God,
I should have better recall.
I'm so bad with remembering names.
Me too. Me too.
Dancer in the Dark.
Oh, Dancer in the Dark with Bjork, yeah.
Dark,
Oh, wow. Give me your top three.
Directors?
Yeah. That inspire you, that maybe had something in the back of your head making Olympia.
Oh no, none of that.
Okay.
All the directors that I love are narrative directors.
Right.
I got into when I was at NYU, I refused to take any documentary classes. I was too good for documentaries.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was like, I don't want to do documentaries. That sounds boring. Like, I want to do narrative.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm
Cool.
saying. Like, I was working on a script for 3 years, which I had applied in Cyprus to the Ministry of Culture for funding. When 2013 happened, in Cyprus, the crash happened in 2011. No, 2011. It was like 2 years after here.
Uh-huh.
And it was at the time when my script was in for consideration, and that just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And I was craving to be creative, and I needed to do something. And
Mm-hmm.
and this opportunity came with Olympia, and I kind of, when the initial thing was like, do I want to do a documentary? Like, okay, it's Olympia Dukakis, but do I really want to do this? I'm going to be like pushing myself in a way that maybe I don't want to, so what? And the more I thought about it, the more it excited me. I had to it's almost like, what do you call it when you taste something for the first time and you hate it, like sushi, let's say.
Oh, yeah.
and then little by little you
You you acquire the taste.
acquire the taste. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had to acquire the taste for documentaries. Now I basically 70% of the times or 80% of the times I watch documentaries. I've become a documentary fanatic, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But back in the day, it was like the Coen brothers, you know, Lars von Trier, and I wasn't a big movie buff. Like I would just go and watch films, and if there was a film that I liked. I wasn't like a direct like, oh, I need to see this film because, you know. It was Marianne, my friend at FIT, who said they're going to ask you who's your favorite director and who's your, you know, what
Oh,
film
yeah,
influenced
yeah.
you. So you should know what to
And you
say.
said Lars von Trier. That's such a fucking evil thing for those. I mean, you got to accept it, so it doesn't really matter. But like, for you to say like one of my favorite directors is Lars von Trier, and she's like, why? Because he's a misogynist. Like, fuck you. You know, that's just unfair.
I think that was unfair too. And we've
Like,
become
why would you do that to somebody?
I don't know.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. Fuck her.
Especially in a place of where you feel vulnerable, like we're
Exactly.
so vulnerable and so scared and yeah.
Exactly.
But obviously she liked me, you know, whatever like shock I went through when she said
Maybe
that.
it was like 2/3 vote. You know, I don't know.
No, I mean she ended up being my teacher. I love her.
Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
no. She's
Oh no. I hope she doesn't watch this.
she just won an Oscar.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah. I
Oh.
wouldn't want to say names, but she'll understand.
All right, good. So I want to talk about the process of. So you mentioned earlier that the opportunity to make Olympia came to you. How did you like? What gave you the idea to start making the film? And then I'll ask some questions about the process of it and stuff.
So on my third year at NYU, I found out that Olympia Dukakis was teaching a course on acting for directors.
Oh.
And I was like,
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna take this class. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I think at the time you had to register for class at 7 a.m. It was some ridiculous time that you had to wake up, you know, and get first in the classes because they would fill really fast. You know,
Yeah.
they only accepted, I think, 7 students per class. And so I got up, I practiced how to like, Olympia's class would be the first one that I would, register for.
Mm-hmm.
A minute before 7 o'clock, my Wi-Fi breaks down and I'm not able to register at all. And I run to NYU at 9 a.m. and I'm like crying. I'm literally crying. And I said, you don't understand. I don't care what classes what other classes you put me in. I have to take this Olympia Dukakis class. She's Greek. I'm Greek.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they said, okay, we'll put you in the waiting list. You're number 1 in the waiting list.
Oh, that's good.
So then
People always drop out, right?
Yeah, exactly. So somebody dropped out. I got in. A week before class starts, the class gets canceled. So after all this, I want to see Olympia Dukakis. So at the time, I had a production company in Cyprus where I would basically bring theater shows to Cyprus from all over the world. And I would also bring film professionals to Cyprus to do film workshops, to help with the film industry there. So I was like, well, why don't I invite Olympia to come to Cyprus? Maybe she'll say yes and do a workshop there. So I pitched it to the head of the department at NYU, and he said, send me an email and I will forward it to her assistant. And 3 days later, I got a call and I pick up my call and my phone and I said, hello. And she goes, hello, Harry? This is Olympia Dukakis.
No way. Oh my God.
And I almost fainted. So we met for coffee and, I explained to her the whole thing. She's like, yes, I'm interested. If you find the money, absolutely, I'll come and do it. So I did. I found the money and Olympia came to Cyprus for 2 weeks. And we had an amazing time there. Like I took the workshop for free because I was the organizer.
All right.
Right.
But that wasn't part of the film. That was it. Like
No.
okay,
No.
okay.
I had no. No. Yeah. No. I didn't film anything. I mean, photographs, but nothing else.
Okay.
And then we came back to New York, and we kept in contact. Once in a while, we would go for dinner. It was a year later when I was at Tribeca watching the Carol Channing documentary with my husband, Lance.
Mm.
And I was like, again, I was not into documentaries. This was like probably one of the first biodocs that I was
Right.
watching, and I was like crying and I was laughing, and it was so fulfilling to watch this. The film ends, and I turned to Lance and I said, somebody needs to do a documentary about Olympia. And he said, well, why don't you do it? You're a filmmaker. And that was the whole discussion with him me saying, I don't know, like, first of all, I don't know how to make a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
I was never interested in a documentary. Do I really want to like throw myself in this not knowing anything?
Mm-hmm.
But, I spent some time thinking about it. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, this would be an interesting subject matter. She's fascinating. After knowing her for a year.
Right.
And that's when I pitched it to her. And I thought I was going to that she was going to rediscover sliced bread, that she was going to be like, oh my God, Harry, thank you so much. You're amazing.
Oh no.
Yeah. And she was like, no, Harry, I don't want to do this.
Oh.
And I was like, but
I was wondering.
what do you mean? Like this will be amazing. Everybody will talk about you and everybody will remember you. And she's like, I don't care. I remember her saying, no one will remember Olympia Dukakis. After my kids, once I go, my kids might talk about Olympia Dukakis for a little bit and maybe a little bit my grandkids later. And that's it. And I was like, well, exactly. That's why we need to do this documentary, because you will be forever remembered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, not interested.
I've been wanting to ask you this question most of all. So how long did it take to convince her?
It took 3 months. It took 3 months of me, like every few days I would come up with a different reason why she should do it.
You were badgering her basically.
Badgering her, yeah, but the whole time letting her know that I'm doing her a favor. Like the reasons are for her. She should do it because this and this and this and this. And she just kept saying no. And then finally, I had come to terms with the no. And I was like, Olympia, I just want to talk to you one more time. And I want to come to your place. And I went there. And we started talking about stuff. And then I said, listen, I got really emotional. And I said, really, like, the real reason I want to do this is because if I do a documentary about you, I will spend so much more time with you. And that, like, that's what I want. I said, I've learned so much this last year. You're so interesting. I just want to spend more time with you. And she got teary-eyed and says, okay, I'll do that for that reason. I'll do it for you, she said.
Oh my God.
And that's the essence of Olympia Dukakis. Like, she found a way subconsciously to make me realize that I wasn't doing her any favors. I had to dig deep into myself and figure out why I wanted it, and express it. And the minute I expressed it and I was pure, and, she just said, okay.
Do it for me, not for you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So once she finally agreed to do this, was she, did she grill you about what the structure should be, what she thought, or she just let you have free reign?
No, the only thing she said is that this one thing, you do not have access to my children. And I said, that's totally fine. I don't need access to your kids.
Oh wait, they're in the film.
Yes.
So come on now.
So I said, it's okay. I'm happy to just have you, Louis, and then your life minus your children. I'm fine with that. And she's great. And then after that, she continued living her life. And then I was constantly working with her personal assistant to try and figure out what her schedule is. And then I would just, we would like, okay, I'm going to come to Lenox, Massachusetts when you're doing The Tempest with Shakespeare Company.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, okay, and then I would go there and I would start shooting. And then when she would get sick and tired of me, like because she had to learn her lines, she'd be like, Harry, you got to get out right now, get out. And I'd be like, okay, I'm out. And then I would come back the next day. It was kind of like very fluid, like I showed up and it was, I mean, to be honest, she hardly ever said get out. And it was always when she was learning lines and she needed her space. But even those days, she would allow me to film for quite a bit, and at some point she was like, okay.
Well, one of the things I love about the film is that there are a few moments that you capture in the film, which not maybe toward you, but you can see her like, I'm over this and I need to like not talk to you right now. Or there's like maybe 3 of those in the film. I don't know, which just makes me love her all the more because she's like, look, I can give you this, I can give you this, there's a limit, and she's very like headstrong and vocal about that. And I love that you captured that part of it,
Yeah, and there was more stuff that I wanted to, I mean, there was a scene in LA. She just had the accident. Remember the black eye that she had?
Yeah.
And literally 2 days after that, she flew to LA to rehearse for Vigil that was going to play at the Mark Tabor Theater. And they put her in this hotel apartment situation on the ground floor with all these plants that were covering the windows. She didn't have access to air. I think she was psychologically disturbed because of the accident. There was a lot, that she was dealing with that. And I kept trying to help her with figuring out where to go. She wanted either to change, to go to a hotel or change floors. And she just couldn't make a decision, and as a man, you are very practical and you say, what don't you like? Tell me what you want and I will work this thing out,
Right.
Her as a woman, she was expressing, and I was trying to like grab what she was saying to make it into my practical mind and figure out a solution.
Right.
And at some point she stopped. We were walking somewhere. She goes, you don't understand. It's not that. I don't know what I want. It's not, it shouldn't be me trying to decide this. They should, figure this thing out for me and 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 I had it in the film. I loved it. Because kind of like, but then things get trimmed out and
director's cut, right? Can you do that at some point?
Well,
right.
Extra scenes, social media.
Right. There you go. Yeah. How long so from the point where she said yes, how long was it from that to starting production? Because there's lots of like planning and stuff that you had to do and
no. So I basically, because I didn't have any money,
right,
and I had to. That was the other thing that made a documentary attractive to me, because I didn't have any money and I thought documentaries I could just, have a cinematographer and I would do sound. I did sound for my film, so it was just two people in the crew, and she said yes. I spoke to her assistant. We figured out that in June or July, it was Pride Month in San Francisco, and they had asked her to be the Grand Marshal.
I love
that. That was our first shoot.
Wow.
Like, I got to San Francisco, and I was part of that, the parade and all the events that she went, and I didn't know what I was doing, Scott. I just said to Ryan Johnson, the the cinematographer was like, just keep filming, just keep
exactly.
filming her.
Exactly.
And I said, I don't know what this film is going to be about, at this point. But just keep filming. Yeah.
That's I think the core of what I wanted to ask you is like, how to like, I guess because documentaries are different than features or the narrative films, that you don't really know where it's going to go. You just like shoot everything and then put it all together in the editing chamber.
Yeah,
right?
and I think, I mean, it's funny, when I was doing applications, and you have all these applications for documentaries that have a narrative, like a narration, a voiceover, a story, like historical, like a Ken Burns documentary, that has a story that, you can build that narration, and then you can bring footage and photographs to match that.
Right.
But
right.
I did not want to do this is, and I'm so thankful that I don't know why or how I knew this. I think it was instinctively that I didn't want to make a factual documentary about a person, a biodoc. I did not want to be like, she was born here, and then she did this, and then she did that, and I wanted it to be cinema verite, which cinema verite, for the people who don't know what it means you follow. You're like a fly that follows them around, and you're filming, so you don't have a lot of control as to what is happening, but that creates a huge editing struggle of
we should have like 10,000 hours of footage or something you have to edit.
Yeah, we had like 300 hours of footage, which then you have to bring down to an hour and a half. And so we filmed for 3 years. It wasn't straight 3 years, it was just choosing the places that she was going, that I felt were interesting, and we filmed them. And then about a year and a half into it, I created a trailer that a teaser actually.
Right.
Which we would use for fundraising, because we needed money. Like, I mean, American Express can only pay that much.
Right. And it's due at the end of the month, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did. I shot literally, I think the 3 years, 2 years of filming. It was my American Express that, I maxed out my American Express, my visa that I had. And then we needed money, because we were going to hire an editor. An editor doesn't work on deferred pay. An editor needs cash. And oh God, I lost my trail of thought. Shit. Oh, we did the trailer, and I went to present the trailer to her and Louis, her husband. So I went to her apartment.
I want to talk about Louis after you tell me this. Okay.
So I play the trailer. He's sitting on the stool, on the kitchen stool, and she's standing behind him. And I'm, further to the right, just looking at them watching the trailer, anxious about whether they're going to like it or not, what they think of it. So it ends, and Louis was very social. And he said, "Harry, can we see it again?" I was like, "Sure." So I put it on again, and as it's playing, he starts asking me questions. "Oh my God, like, how did you film this? Oh my God, you did this?" Like, how he had all these questions. All of a sudden, I feel like a hand here, and it's Olympia, like, what do you call it, poking me. And as I'm talking to Louis, and I turn and I said, and I look at her, and she had tears in her eyes.
Oh my God.
And she said, "Harry, this is so beautiful." She goes, "I don't know what I was expecting, but this was not it." And she said, but the problem is that you don't have my children." And I started laughing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really, Olympia?
Yeah. So I was like, well, we can, you remember you told me that I don't have access to your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's wrong. Louis' birthday, I think it was his 89th birthday, is coming up in 2 weeks. My boys are going to be there. Christina had already moved to LA, so she wasn't going to be around. But my boys are going to be there with their families. You have to come and film them. And then I will talk to them, and you can interview them if you need to, whatever you need.
Nice.
So that was the shift. But by then, we had filmed so much, we didn't have much time to go into, like, there was no any family vacations. Like, I did a great interview with the boys. Christina did not want to participate in the film for whatever reasons. So, that's why the boys are in there and she's not.
Yeah. And then how did the sequences in Cyprus and Greece come about?
Well, Cyprus, the trip that I took, that original trip that I invited her to do the workshop before we started filming.
Yeah.
Olympia Dukakis is very famous, and especially within the Greek community. So she was approached by 1,000 people who wanted to work with her. One of them was the National Theater of Cyprus that I put them in contact with, and they had invited her to come to Cyprus in the future to do a play in Greek.
Ooh.
The play that she did on Broadway with Mike Nichols, that Norman Jewison saw her in and casted her for Moonstruck. It's called Social Security. Right. They were going to do that in Greek with the National Theater, and they asked her to come to do it. So when she went to do it, I was already filming Olympia. It was on the first year of our filming. So I was like, oh my God, it's Cyprus. It's my country.
Yeah, right?
I can go and live, at home.
Yeah.
So we stayed for a month, I think, in Cyprus. But while she was rehearsing on that play, the other big star, there was 2 stars, her and Mimi Denisi, who is this gigantic star in Greece, theater, television actress, got run over by a car and broke her hip.
Oh my God.
So the show got canceled. She was stuck in Cyprus. They had paid all this money for her to be there. And she suggested, do you want me to do my one-woman show, Rose? Martin Sherman's Rose. I don't know if you've ever seen Rose.
I haven't, no.
It's the thing that Lynn Cohen speaks about and says, I went to see her do Rose, and then I told my husband, you don't have to see theater ever again. It's not going to get it.
Okay.
It's an amazing one-woman show. Anyway, so she did that. And so that's how I ended up in Cyprus. And then Greece, she was invited by this Greek film producer and a great man to go with her family to Greece to visit her parents' villages. Yeah. She had been there before, by herself. She did that trip many years ago in the, I think, late 80s or early 90s. But she wanted to take her daughter and her granddaughters. Olympia is all about the matrilineal line, the women, the line that connects women from generation to generation, and she wanted to bring the women of her family back home to feel something, to have a connection with, their ancestral home. Right. And I was like, yes, I'm going.
Yeah, right.
This is amazing. So we went and we stayed with them for 2 weeks. The trip was 2 weeks. I filmed everything. Every day I was filming. And it was one of the most amazing experiences ever to see them back there and have them walk through, the villages where they grew up, where her parents grew up in, and amphitheaters and Mycenae, the great, ancient Greek empire. Right. Up there. It was just surreal.
I mean, there's so many beautiful layers to this film. Obviously, Olympia as a woman, as a strong, assertive woman, theater company creator, obviously actress, obviously Moonstruck, all this stuff. But like when it gets to the point in your film where she's doing, as you say, showing her grandkids and her kids, like, this is where you come from. I found it completely moving and powerful, and it was a perfect kind of part in the film where, you know, most of it is just, you know, her life as an actress, and then it gets into, you know, the roots and the heritage of her life and stuff, and it's beautifully shot. I mean, the whole thing's beautifully shot, by the way.
Well, thank you. I wouldn't say it's beautifully shot. I mean, in the sense that we were shooting from one hotel room to another hotel room. It wasn't that.
I know.
Ugly furniture, you know, and then when you go to Greece and Cyprus and you come out, you know, out of the hotel.
Yeah, and the light.
And the light and the sea and the it's breathtaking at that moment. But yeah, thank you. I mean, I feel like, you know, I had two amazing cinematographers to work with.
Yeah.
Olympia is, you know, I never heard about the Great Mother. I had no idea who this Great Mother is. She starts talking to me about it one day, and I'm going, what are you talking about? What do you mean pre-Greeks? There is no pre-Greeks. I mean, even though in my head I know, like, there was, you know, whatever, but it was like the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and that's it. Like, you know, everything after that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, blew my mind. And every time we would meet, I would ask her about the Great Mother because I was fascinated. And she kept asking me, why the fuck are you asking me about the Great Mother? No one is interested about this bullshit, you know, like this stuff. Like, no one's interested other than me. And I was like, well, I'm interested. I said, I don't know if it's going to make it in the film, but I really want to know what you know, because she traveled. I mean, this, you know, she traveled with archaeologists, and they went, you know, digging in sites, finding artifacts of this communities that lived, you know, thousands of years ago, before the Greeks, you know, where the goddess was a female, you know, and so I was just filming
pre 400 BC. We're talking
pre what?
Pre 400 BC, right? Which is when the Greek Empire was.
Oh yeah, this is like
800.
This is like 6,000 BC, like prehistory. It's what they call prehistory.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to make it into the film. I really didn't, until we went into the editing room, and we invited this philosophy PhD graduate who deals with women, matrilineal, like you know, we brought a specialist in to look at the footage to help us figure out, is there something here?
Yeah.
You know, and she was able, it was this French woman, Nina, who like picked things up, you know, and she's like, oh my God, this is gold. And like, and she connected the dots, and then all of a sudden we were able to see it, you know, and then work on it. And you know, all of a sudden the women, you know, all these movements came out, you know, and it became so relevant to talk about the patriarchy and how the patriarchy, you know, brought down the matriarchy before. And so things that were just out of interest for me all of a sudden became relevant. And
especially now.
Yeah, especially now. Exactly. Also, you know, having, you know, filming during Obama. People would say, what is this film about? And I would say, it's a film about a daughter of immigrants who has struggled through her life and is still struggling to try and find who she is. And everybody was like, literally, we're like, no, because you got to work it at another angle. Like, no, it's not relevant. It's like, because during Obama we were all happy. Everybody was like, you know, let's talk about other stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then Trump comes to power, and it is so relevant. All of a sudden, my film is like, yes, it's the story of a daughter of immigrants, and
Right.
it just makes sense. Like the film came out, I struggled a lot with how long it took to make this film,
Hmm.
but I feel like it came out at the right time.
Well, exactly. And then, like so much of what you described about your career, it's you walk into the dance hall and you're like, what is this? And then you walk into NYU Film School and what is this? And it's like, and then you put this enormous amount of work, 9 years of your life into this work, and it does. I just feel like in general, like if you're attuned to it, everything works out for a reason and a time,
Yeah, exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
And I think that's what, this and so many levels this film has done. I can't wait for the whole fucking world to see it, honestly.
Me too.
I know. So, so I just want to reiterate, I want to cycle back a bit so that our viewers know. I'm going to put all this in the show notes. So you have the Facebook Live thing on July 9th. And then you have the cinema, virtual cinema on the next day on the 10th. So that's where people can see this, and also go to olympiafilm.com.
Olympia the Film.
olympiathefilm.com.
And it's the same for all our social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, website is Olympia the Film.
Good. olympiathefilm.com. I think that's, I could talk to you forever about this stuff, but I wanted to sort of keep it at an hour or so. Thank you for doing this.
What, sorry.
Sure.
Can we just talk a little bit, because of current events and the whole, J.K. Rowling, issue with the non-binary transgender people, and I just want to talk a little bit, like, one of the, Olympia portrayed a transgender character in 1987, I think.
Yeah.
Tales of the City, at PBS.
Right.
PBS. It was a PBS program with male nudity, female nudity, people smoking pot, and the main character being a transgender woman.
Right.
And it was the most successful show of PBS ever. They were shut down by the Republicans a year later. And then it went into cable, and they did 2 more seasons. And recently, Netflix came and did the last installment,
which was wonderful. It took me a while to warm up to it, but I loved it in the end.
Yeah, I loved it too. And the thing is that, there was discussion, because we live at a time when we're trying to get, if the character is transgender, we're trying to, be inclusive and have transgender actors to play that part, right? And there was a big discussion after I spoke to Alan Poole, the producer, should it be Olympia, or should they change Anna Madrigal to an actual transgender
wow.
character?
So you actually, okay, cool.
Yeah. And, the team said, that is Olympia's part. There was no way we could have, for everyone else, we did that, but Anna Madrigal was Olympia Dukakis. And I want to say that in this time, Olympia, like, since 1987, when she became aware of transgender individuals, she has been a vocal supporter of trans rights. And it's one of the things that I wanted to do in the film was to include the Tales of the City part of it, because at Pride, at San Francisco Pride, there was so much stuff that we could have chosen from, and what I wanted to do was focus on that. And that's why when she talks about her experience doing for the first time and asking, I said, I have to meet a real transgender woman to understand,
Right.
you know, what this character is all about. And, you know, and she discusses the meeting and the questions she asked and the answers she received. So I just wanted to, you know, to shout out, not just from Olympia, but from myself too, that, you know, we all are who we are, and we have to love and respect ourselves and others who choose to be who they are.
Right.
And yeah, and Olympia was a great example for that, and I've learned a lot from her on this issue.
And not only an ally and an advocate, but you know, someone who actually like changes her whole paradigm and that it informs her work to do, you know, to do that role. Anna Madrigal, oh my God, it's I had it transferred to, because for a while you couldn't buy it, like it was really hard to find. Then I had it transferred to DVD. I bought these really shitty VHS things. That's all that was available.
You
And
mean
then
back then?
yeah, the first one.
The first one, yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes in your film Olympia is when she's the Grand Marshal on the float in San Francisco, and she's looking around, and I think you're there, and she's like, none of these people, she's smiling all the time, none of these people know who the fuck I am. And I love, like, you know, she can take something, you know, rather heady. I mean, that's a fucking heady body of work, and that particular role, and you know, being in the San Francisco Pride and stuff, and have that amazing face, you know, that she does, and like under her breath, she's like, I don't know who the fuck I am, and she was okay with it, you know what I mean? She's like, I don't, you know, whatever.
She doesn't expect anything.
Yeah.
Olympia was always about, you know, doing her work. She loved to work, loves to work. And the other thing is connections, human connections, and being present and loving people and accepting people. I've never, ever heard her say a bad thing about anyone. I mean, okay, maybe Trump.
Just like me.
But I'm saying people, you know, she gets political and she gets really vocal with politics, you know. But she will just, you know, make you feel like you're the center of the universe when she's talking to you. I just got an email from a guy in Houston who said, you know, we had asked it on Facebook, you know, it's her 89th birthday on the 20th of June, on the 20th of June, and we're gonna celebrate for I don't know if you saw.
Her birthday's tomorrow?
No, 20th of June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was okay. Happy birthday, Olympia.
But we've been posting, like, a lot of friends and celebrities have been sending videos. Like yesterday was Shirley MacLaine. If you go to our Facebook
my gosh. Okay.
Shirley has posted.
And this Facebook page, just for our viewers, is still Olympia the
film.
Yeah. Okay.
And this guy in Houston sends me 2 photographs where it's him and Olympia in, like, I don't know, in the 90s and then in like 2015. And he said, I met Olympia in the 90s. We were in this party. I went to ask her for a photograph. She grabbed my hand, took me out to the patio. We spoke for 30 minutes, asked me all these questions about, you know, what I want to do, who, you know, connected me to her personal assistant who helped me basically with my, like, with guidance with my career, eventually getting my SAG card because of her. This is like a random stranger. Like, that is who she is. You know, like, just gold. Is all, pure love.
Thank you, Olympia. Hopefully she sees this. Can you send her a copy of this?
Absolutely.
Or like a link?
Yeah. If you send me a link, I will definitely.
I'm going to get it up online today. The YouTube thing, I don't usually edit. I just sort of put it out into the world, and then the audio, I edit and put some music breaks and things. Thank you for doing this, Harry. I'm just the biggest fan of you, and I am honored to know you, and I hope everybody gets to see this film, because I think it's really important, and this woman is important, and Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It was, I mean, we've known each other for a while now,
Yeah.
and I love doing this. I do believe that she has a message for us. She has a message for us, and so I do hope that as many people can see this, it would be wonderful.
Me too. I'm gonna do my best to push this out and in my little part, and the world needs to see it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Harry.
Thank you, Scott. I really appreciate it.
Don't go away. Way Off the Record has been written, edited, and produced by Scott Ambrosino, also produced by Christian Hernandez, and we are available on all platforms where you get your podcasts. And drop us a line on social media. We can be reached at the @WOTR pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.